The dust moved on its own schedules, not blown, not disturbed by draft or by the settling complaints of old timber, but displaced, deliberately, in a single continuous smear along the east banister of the main stair. Every morning, always traveling the same direction, down toward the foyer, toward the door that opened onto a street where no one had walked since the estate closed in 1991. The caretaker who'd handed over the keys had mentioned the dust only once, in passing, the way people mention things they have decided not to think about anymore. The estate sat 3 miles outside the village proper, behind a tree line so dense it swallowed the afternoon by 2 o'clock. The grounds had gone to something that was no longer quite meadow and not yet forest, a threshold state, a held breath. The house itself was 4 stories of darkened sandstone, its windows intact but filmed with the particular gray opacity of glass that has not been opened in decades. It did not look abandoned, it looked occupied by something that required no light. Eleanor arrived on a Sunday with 2 hard cases of archival equipment and a commission from the Historical Trust. 1 week, a full catalog, photographs, and condition notes for every room before the demolition crew arrived the following Monday. She had done this kind of work before. Empty houses, closed estates, the bureaucratic last rites of old architecture. She was not a superstitious woman. She was, by training and temperament, a person who believed in evidence. The floor plan was framed in the foyer, under glass, mounted at eye level beside the main stair. She studied it that first evening with professional attention. 17 rooms across 4 floors, the servant quarters sealed off at the north wing, 2 drawing rooms, 1 library, kitchens below. She photographed it and moved on. On the second morning, she noticed the dust on the banister and photographed that too, noting the direction of travel in her log, with no accompanying theory. On the third morning, it had happened again. Same smear, same direction. She checked every window, every point of ingress. The house was sealed. That night she stood in the foyer before bed and looked at the framed floor plan for a long time. There were 18 rooms. She had counted 17. She had the photograph. She pulled it up on her laptop, held the screen toward the frame, compared them panel by panel. The east wing now showed a room between the linen cupboard and the back stair that existed on the frame but not in her photograph. A room with no label, a room that appeared to have no door. She told herself it was a detail she had missed. She was thorough. She did not miss details. She told herself it again. By the 4th night, the room had a door. She had not found it in the physical house, had pressed her palm along every wall in the east wing until the plaster was warm from her hand. But on the floor plan, it was there, a thin rectangle opening inward, positioned where the wainscoting ran flush and unbroken. She stood in the corridor at midnight and listened. The house breathed the way old houses breathe, in long structural exhalations, in the slow complaint of joinery. But underneath that, underneath, where sound becomes sensation rather than sound, there was a cold traveling upward through the floorboards from somewhere below the basement level, somewhere the plan did not show. She should have gone to bed. She was a person who believed in evidence. The servant's stair was in the north wing behind a door she had catalogued as a utility cupboard. It descended past the basement level, past the point where the stair should have ended at the foundation, and then continued. The cold intensified with each step. Her breath preceded her in small visible clouds. At the bottom, a door, and beyond it, a ballroom. Full-length, high-ceilinged, its proportions impossible given what lay above it. Sheeted furniture arranged in loose clusters, dozens of shapes under white linen, the way a room looks when it is closed for the season, the way a room looks when the owners intend to return. She stood in the doorway for a long time, watching. The air was completely still. Then one of the sheets moved, not swept by draft. not collapsing over a shifting object. It expanded slowly with the long, low rhythm of a chest drawing breath, and then contracted. Then the one beside it. Then the one beside that. A slow wave moving through the room, shape by shape, every sheet rising and falling in a pattern that was not synchronized, but was not random, the way a crowd breathes when it is waiting and has been waiting for a very long time. She crossed the room in 12 steps. She reached down and lifted the corner of the nearest sheet. Damp plaster, the impression in the dust where something had been standing, weight displaced across 2 points, the way weight displaces when something stands upright, when something leans slightly forward, the impression of presence, the fact of absence. The sheet beside it moved. She did not run. Her body did not permit running. Her body permitted only the long climb back up the servant stair, one step at a time, her hand flat against the wall because her legs were not entirely reliable, and the cold following her, not diminishing as she climbed, not staying below but rising with her, keeping pace all the way to the top. She left before dawn. She did not finish the catalog. The demolition crew arrived Monday as scheduled. They entered through the main door. The foreman filed a brief incident report that afternoon, citing an access issue, a structural discrepancy in the basement level, a subfloor room not present on any blueprint, no indication it had been on the original plans, no indication of how it had been built, sealed, or what had left the marks in the plaster floor that the crew refused to describe in writing beyond the single phrase used by the foreman himself. Standing impressions. Multiple. Facing the stair. The estate was demolished on schedule. The floor plan was removed from the foyer and placed in a historical archive, where it remains accessible to researchers. It shows 19 rooms now. No one has been able to account for the last one.